Fireside Chat with Sandbox, stage of gaming development and AI implementation.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, George.
Morning
How
to
are you
you as
doing?
well.
How are you doing this morning?
It's been interesting. It's always interesting in the IBC. It's my second time here. I never say no to an invitation. It's always eye-opening, especially not coming from an iGaming space, and we see a lot of iGaming related businesses. So it's always interesting. It's eye-opening.
I think it's would you say, just to warm things up, it's a good sign that the spaces of gaming at large are melding into more things?
Well, I think that gaming has permeated into society in more ways than we believe. I'm also like an advisory board for MarTech Summit, right? And I speak about marketing technology a lot. And what surprises me is how little marketers actually are aware that gaming is in all aspects. Our parents game, our children game, but it's the type of game that they play. That's different, right? And it's so prevalent in society today, but yet marketers still think that gaming is not important, or gaming is just kid stuff. You know, there's that bias, but reality is really different. So I think the gap is not about whether or not gaming has merged into society in many levels, but it's more about getting companies to be aware that gaming is already there. You know, that's actually been the challenge more than the actual consumer adoption.
So that's a perfect segue. So let's talk a little bit about Sandbox to get things off before we go into the meat of
Sure.
the topic of AI and game development. So Sandbox has had one of the most interesting story arcs in Web3 gaming and blockchain. Right? I myself remember it was my first digital universe property. It's one of the first things that integrated and brought in many consumer brands and integrated brands into the space, into larger gaming in space. So in your words, your personal take, where would you say that, or paint the picture of where Sandbox is today?
Well, I think that, you know, Sandbox is actually 13 years old, but the first half of our journey was in mobile games. And then we switched to blockchain, and building the metaverse using blockchain technology was because we wanted to, well, the main reason was because we had a lot of creators who were building content on our platform, but they were not making money from it. So we wanted to introduce a way where content creators could control and monetize, right? So fast forward, I guess, almost like, 5-ish years of development and including the creator economy into our space, we have had quite a bit of success in that sense. You know, we have helped create monetization channels for creators. And but right now, it's really about focusing on gameplay, fun, and content, and adoption of the platform. So I think many Web3 games are still, unfortunately, putting the financial aspect in front of the game itself. So, and that's the biggest barrier to success for a lot of Web3 games, right? They focus too much on the tokenomics and how people make money. And to be honest, I think this is extremely prevalent in the Philippines. It's not wrong to make money, but if people's only reason to play your game is to make money, they might as well go iGaming, right? There is no actual reason to play a traditional game if your only incentive is gambling per se, right? Making money, right? Just play a gambling game instead of playing the Sandbox, right? So the industry hasn't figured out how to transition from a monetary reward system to engage gamers to actually just play your game and be rewarded for your effort in terms of like wearables and which is what brands want. They want to incentivize you in terms of like wanting to wear their virtual like jacket of their brand in the metaverse and engage with other consumers, right? So in our case, we've been always aware about that. So we are really pushing that boundary of like first getting people to build great content with the creator economy, focusing a lot on that, showcasing that content, getting real players to come in to actually play, and then subsequently as well, helping the creators create better monetization channels, right? So a lot of it is really the fundamental groundwork that we're doing, you know? It's a process, but we spent a lot of time. We now have about 8 million users, which is an achievement for us. I don't think many blockchain games have that tangible community. And Southeast Asia, in particular, is one of the biggest playing communities for the Sandbox, despite not being a Southeast Asian company originally. So I think that's a pretty big achievement.
And I think what most people might not put together is with the idea of the sandbox, obviously, is that many don't even take into account the requirement of the creator sustainability, right? And I think that's something you guys have championed very publicly, right? And I think there have been a flood of updates, I guess, to bring those updates in the creator part into it. I know season 5 alpha just wrapped up. I think just 1 year of the sandbox now as well. I'm curious now that that is the state of things and the focus. You seem to be very self-aware, and Sandbox, I think, maybe to its credit, as very self-aware, just from what you've spoken about now. So, what in your words, would be the next major milestones that you're looking forward to that would keep that same ethos forward, but bring the impact that you're looking forward to the ecosystem?
I think there's a few areas, right? One of it is how do we hyper accelerate user-generated content, more creators. And the reason why I say that is because games sometimes is a question of luck, right? And what I mean by that is, what's a fun game is really subjective. We may need to have so right now we have about 3,000 published games on the platform, right? In the grand scheme of things, 3,000 indie games is a really small number compared to what's available in the market. So we need to keep cultivating, educating, and let's say have 10,000 indie games. Because out of 10,000, one that is going to be a runaway success would be what pushes us over the boundary of Web 2, Web 3, right? Because right now the issue is Web 2 gaming market is massive. The Web 3 gaming market is really small, right? And we are basically taking up as much of that pie already as a company, right? So in order for us to really, as an industry, to really establish, we need to have that runaway hit game that people will want to play regardless of whether or not it's Web 3 or not, right? So we need to break that boundary. So I think that's one of the things, like having the right game that brings people into the space. And because we're a platform, we're not a game developer in a manner of speaking, right? So we need the developers to make the game. So that's a lot of work there. Then the second thing I think is really the reduction of friction. Friction comes in many ways, right? One of it is access to the game. For example, like having a sandbox-based mobile game, right, will give access to people in terms of devices. The other thing is about payments. So we are looking at integrating even like traditional fiat payments to complement crypto payments. So we are trying to be more inclusive and make the customer journey a lot easier. So what I truly believe and have been saying for years now is that the term Web3 gaming should be eliminated at some point, right? Because I think, and I've been saying this in even a lot of other conferences, nobody cares, to be very honest. Consumers don't care if you're Web3, right? They like the value of it, but they don't care that it's Web3,
Yes, agree. I mean, I come also from many years in gaming before I fell in love with kind of like the space and the possibilities of it. And you're right, like I fully adhere to that idea that Web3, we know that things are winning when the Web3 just gets dropped. Yeah. And the gamers are just gaming, but the underlying value, the economy, the ecosystem start making sense. And I really liked what you said about the flywheel, and essentially the flywheel of the platform. The breakout hit, I know it's coming. It's just a matter of like when it gets extremely validated at the hyperscale level, then it lifts all the boats. So I think that's the right play. Obviously, and I'm a fan of that. So now let's bring the elephant in the room in the space about it, which is the topic of today is about game development with AI implementation. So I'll kick that off first with, what do you see as the most naturally enhancing parts that AI serves in game development, especially for a user-generated metaverse platform like Sandbox? Like, how has it changed for you guys, and how do you see what really just works?
Well, I believe that with our experience dealing with creators, one of the interesting metric is that majority of the creators on our platform were not classically trained as game developers, right? So that's key catalyst, because our software is no code, and that's why people want to use the Sandbox to build compared to other platforms. Now, with AI, it fulfills the ambitions of creators who are really not even trained enough to work with a WYSIWYG dashboard or creator, right? You can now tell so we have actually been investing in it. We have some demos. We've had some AI development kits being built. And the way it works is that we build a generic scene and we tell the AI, I want to change this to a Christmas scene, right? And it does it in less than a minute or two. So that accelerates creation. Maybe the creator has worked a lot to build like an environment, but he's like, oh, I made a mistake. I want to just change the entire environment to reflect a different season. They just tell the AI to do it. That saves them weeks of work, in a manner of speaking. So what we feel that in terms of AI is going to hyper accelerate the game development, even for a platform like ours, which is already a no-code platform, right? It's going to save a lot of time. To put it in perspective, with a no-code platform, if you want to build a game from the ground up, it takes about 2 to 6 months to build a good game, right? Even for our internal team. But with AI, you can now accelerate building your vision without any gaming development skills to maybe like a week or two, to at least come out with a core framework for a game and stuff like that. And then you can refine it individually, right? So I think that is going to be great for UGCs. Because if you think about it, I like to draw parallels with YouTube, right? So YouTube as a platform simplified distribution of video content. And at the same time, the tools like CapCut and stuff like that has made video editing so easy that someone with no video editing training can edit a video on their phone, upload it to YouTube. And I've done like my own tests on all this software to see how easy it is. And even that, I don't think is as easy as what AI can do for you, right? So the more AI comes into play for content creators especially, and I look at game developers now as content creators, that's going to accelerate things a whole lot.
Do you see any risks in adding the entire AI stack to the creativity of these creators? Are there any backlashes to the ethos of it or anything like that? Has there been some friction, despite it being powerful, to the adoption of it you see in the creators?
Well, I think there are two major impacts with AI. And okay, I have to say this is not a Sandbox opinion. This is a personal opinion.
By all
okay?
means.
I think every agency is going to get wiped out, right? Development agency, studios, and it's like only the biggest ones that does the most complex things would survive, but any middle of the road, mid-size startup are automatically disrupted. I had a long conversation yesterday over the VIP dinner where I was saying that I believe in our lifetime we would see the elimination of work with AI and robotics. Right? We are already building R2D2 to be sold in your homes. It's not an impossible thing to imagine that physical labor in its entirety, that includes physical labor working at a computer, would ultimately be replaced. So that creates a huge problem. But what I thought would replace that, or the future of work, is actually attention marketing, right? The more AI comes into the picture, the more people will value human input. The parallel is like photography and paintings. Paintings originally was not art. It was meant to document the world because that was the only way to do it. With cameras, paintings evolved to be an art form where the human input is important. You can make a better picture with AI, but would you respect an artist who painted one painting for a year to produce a lifetime? And would you value that over AI, which costs nothing, right? So, and in the modern age, streamers are going to be really important. Esports gaming is going to be really important because an AI can play better than you, a bot can play better than you. But the money is in supporting streamers who have human input and skill to play. So what I think is going to change is that a lot of work is going to change to be a part of the attention marketing segment, right? Because a lot of traditional work is slowly, eventually being replaced.
So would you say that, let me know if I'm framing this correctly.
Sure.
That because of the AI, there will be just abundance in creating games and worlds. The content will be just so proliferated. The same as paintings were something, I love the parallelism, by the way. They're very hard to come by, very rare. When photography just made images infinitely accessible. So now what you're alluding to is that anybody or most people with any interest will probably be able to make a game world, some sort of game world, like something in Sandbox, and it's all a matter of can you create something that will grab the attention for all the time, that everyone has the same time to
Yeah.
only share?
So
Is that
I'll give you an example, right? So I'm going to use a different game to give example. So it's a very fair statement, right?
Fair, fair.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
So let's look at things like Minecraft. Now, theoretically, you could build a game in Minecraft using AI, right? Now, but we know that people will value if one guy was going into Minecraft and placing blocks for like months to rebuild the Lord of the Rings, which I've seen that, which is an amazing thing,
Yes,
right?
yes.
But if you just showed the outcome, nobody cares. They can't differentiate between AI, right? So what the creator has to do is to create content showing him or her making that content, and then people will value the creator for putting in the time to build it, and they will say, that's amazing work. I want to support this guy. I'm going to give him a subscription because I like his work. You see the change? So that's why I say the attention marketing no longer is just a way to reach consumers. It's going to be like a necessary element for creators to survive.
So how they approach their craft matters now in how they create the meta content around it. So perfect segue. So given all that, and you've painted the future, your view of the future in an unbiased way. So where do you think Sandbox comes into play in shaping that future now with AI, in Web3 gaming and all of these areas?
I think we are paving the way a lot in terms of the experimentation, right? Like using AI for creators to develop over time. We are testing out different tools in AI from like, we are looking at things like AI agents, autonomous payments. It's a lot, right? Because AI covers so many things. It's like a whole new territory, right? That you're trying to explore. So, and I think that's where we will push the boundaries a lot. And our platform will evolve, our game will evolve as the AI implementation grows. So I think that's where we play a role, because not many are like us who are actually testing to that level, I would say, right? And betting our products on AI innovation and helping creators grow. So we will make mistakes. We will definitely build something that may not be something the market wants, but then the market will know, right? Like, oh, what works, what doesn't work, but that also puts us in a good standing to evolve. So I think that's where we play. We're kind of like pushing boundaries at this stage, right? And I hope, that we create a solution that creators, like anyone, can now just be a creator. Like you will one day, I just want to build my own game. I've always wanted to own my own game, and now I can with AI, that kind of thing.
It inspires me to think about, we were talking a little bit earlier about, I have a young daughter, and the idea of creating a game for my kids, because at the whim, and not 3 years, sounds magical. So I really appreciate that vision. And if it means that I could share that with scale and Sandbox vision, then the frontier makes sense to me. Okay, to kind of like wrap things up, we're running a little bit out of time. I'm going to do a quick lightning round, couple of questions. So just go at it as candid as you can. So number one, what game has not been built in Sandbox that you wish existed?
Well, I think we have
Or experience, sorry. This doesn't be a specific game.
I mean, there are some early stages of it, but I really want to see more roguelike games. I'm a big fan of indie games like Vampire Survivors, Hades, stuff like that. I think it's super engaging. Sandbox is a perfect platform for that. So yeah, I want to see way more of that. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so anybody watches the VOD or the live stream, is a Sandbox creator or not yet, jump on Sandbox. And George is interested in supporting the roguelike atmosphere there. Okay. Okay, so next one, I'd like to wrap this up. We talked a lot about AI and I think what the future was. What do you think, in a more tactical level, is something in AI and game development that you think is understated, misunderstood, or slept on, as they say these days?
I wouldn't say it's slept on, but I feel like a lot of AI companies are not spending a lot of time on. I think there has to be a lot more investment into creating AI NPCs. Because you see, when I was flying in, I was watching Ready Player One, coincidentally, right? And I talked about Ready Player One like many years ago in this context. And I think that Ready Player One is great because the AI is so lifelike that people enjoyed the game. The only reason you will know someone is a player is because that's the player thing on top of their head. But other than that, you wouldn't know. And that, if AI is a huge catalyst to making Ready Player One happen, right? So I would say, but somehow when I speak to a lot of AI companies, they're not really focused on that. they probably stop at the chatbot level, you know? So I feel like that is something that will win because it's relevant to every type of game, right? I can imagine iGaming having AI NPC croupiers, so lifelike, 24/7, always happy, serving the market, right?
Yeah.
It's true, you know, but no one's spending enough on it.
So I guess just the last curveball question here. Does Sandbox have tools right now to create an enriching AI NPC within its worlds?
We don't, but we are speaking to people and actively pitching that, you know, that's something you should look at. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm excited about that. I do think that growing up playing games, NPCs did a lot of depth to my own attachment to the world. So that's something you see. And you're right. I've not actually talked to anybody who cares about it deeply. So, well, thank you, George. That wraps up our talk.
Thank you very much, everyone.
And yeah, thank you for being here.